that is being expressed through the 7.8 and 8.6 and 9 cycle per second energy. Resurrection is a path. This man, Jesus of Nazareth, anchored this wisdom. He lived among us and anchored this wisdom in our conscious matrix. He became the living bridge for us 2,000 years later, so that we would have access to his wisdom as we actually live the transition, as Earth actually carries us through the transition. Now, there's a lot of controversy as to whether or not this man actually ever existed, lived or not. Some of the controversy centers around this relic that is known as the Shroud of Turin. Now, this particular shroud, this is a linen shroud that was wrapped, it's said to have been wrapped around the body of Christ following the crucifixion, and is this shroud that was left in the burial chamber after his body disappeared following his resurrection. A lot of controversy surrounding this. I'll say right now, we will never know for sure who was in this shroud. We don't know certainly who it was. In the past, through the methods of dating, carbon-14 dating and things like that, it has taken so much of a sample in order to establish the dates that the original artifact has been destroyed. It would have taken a square foot of this linen being destroyed to date this, according to carbon-14 traditions. Well, in 1978, Los Alamos National Labs in north central New Mexico was able to obtain this shroud for a period of time, and they ran some new analyses on it without destroying the fibers. And here's what they found. What they discovered was this. The controversy has been whether or not this image, what is this image that we're seeing on this 2,000-year-old shroud? Some people say it's painted. Some people say it's body oils from the body that was within the shroud. What Los Alamos National Labs is saying, and this team was headed up by a gentleman named Ray Rogers in 1978. They're saying this, that the weaving and the linen type of this shroud are authentic to the date about 2,000 years ago that we would expect to see from that time in history. So it probably is about 2,000 years old. That the image that you're seeing on here appears to be a photographic negative on this linen. And here's why they say that. Because when we photograph the negative of the shroud, we end up with a positive of the image. So it may be that this shroud essentially is a photographic negative over 2,000 years old. When we photograph that now, we have a very good positive image of whoever this man was. Now, what the report says, it says that this image was not painted, it's not body oils, it's not some a charcoal rubbing or anything like that. That the fibers of the linen are actually scorched from, they were scorched from within the shroud, whatever the shroud was covering, the body. The fibers were scorched from within by a high, rapid, intense heat source of biochemical origin unknown to us at this time. That's actually what the report says. We call that resurrection. A rapid influx of tremendous amounts of life force or chi or prana intentionally distributed to every cell in the body, allowing those cells a higher vibratory expression of themselves. So we'll never know precisely who this man is. The damage on the man's wrists, around his head, and in his side do match the damage that is given to us, that was given to the body of Christ during the crucifixion process. Again, we'll never know for certain precisely who this man was. The reason I have this slide here is because I'm showing you at least once in our history we may have been given the opportunity to see, to witness the demonstration of a change of state, a phase transition that we call resurrection. In the Essene traditions, then what we see is at least once this reference being, a reference being that we know as Jesus of Nazareth, the gift that that reference being left for us then was the gift of the wisdom to allow this phase transition, this change of state, this process that we call resurrection within our bodies. Compassion in the Essene traditions Compassion is a knowable, livable science. And again, this is the image that to me conjures up the sense of compassion. Cheryl's image of Archangel Michael in prayer over the Middle East in the Gulf War. It is through compassion, the science of compassion, and you and I will work together to arrive at this understanding through this video. Through the science of compassion, that emotions, as they were allowed to express fully in the body, shift genetic patterns, genetic codes within the body, allowing the body the tuning, allowing the body to ride in the transition with the earth. As the earth goes through her changes, our bodies are being asked to go through theirs. The image that you're seeing is a frozen image, a still image of a dynamic system from a science that we call the science of cymatics, the relationship between sound and form. In this pattern, you'll begin to understand now why the magnetics of the earth falling and the frequency increasing, why they're so important to you. A gentleman named Hans Jenny, who's no longer with us, developed this science of cymatics back in the late 1940s. And essentially what he said is this: for every vibration, whether it's an audible sound or an inaudible frequency, for every audible or every pattern of vibration, as it's projected into some media, some form of matter, there will be a predictable, repeatable, consistent pattern. And when the vibration changes, that pattern changes. And when the vibration goes back to what it was, the pattern goes back to what it was. Well, what I'd like to do now is show you a series of cymatic images so that you can see this with your own eyes, so that you can feel this with your body. There's a body resonance that I'd like for you to have before we move forward with this discussion. So what you will see now is a series of cymatic images, and I'll let you watch them, listen to them, and then we'll come back and discuss those. The image you're seeing is a cymatics image. It's the result of a vibration being projected into a media. And what you'll notice is that the higher the frequencies of the vibration that you're seeing, the more complex the patterns. As you watch carefully, you'll see these patterns will become more and more complex, resulting or being the result of increasingly complex and higher frequencies. If you listen carefully, you can just barely hear these sounds. See how much more complex this image is as a result of the higher frequency. This is being narrated by a gentleman named Dr. Peter Guy Manners. And you'll hear Dr. Manners' voice throughout as we see these different cymatics images. These sounds are being projected into a media of lycopodium. It is the spore of the mugwort plant. And it's the lycopodium, the particles of lycopodium that you're seeing in motion throughout. Now in this particular image, watch what happens as the frequencies increase. If you were to look at a single particle, it would look like it was in chaos, and when you back off and look at the overall particles, you see there is a very high order.
Transition to a mobile flowing phase. And back again to the figure. The sonorous figures represent